Hello and welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Hanny.
And today it's going to be Annie's Mailbox. And so we're going to be reading a letter from a viewer who wrote in. And what are you doing? Hello, Annie's Mailbox. We got to read another stolen letter.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, you got to kind of put the phone down once in a while.
Just a second.
Okay. We're going to be reading about people who are Phubbers, people who spend way too much time on their phone and don't, sort of pay attention to the world around them and actually are kind of rude to the people who are, they should be spending time with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
I'm not a Phubber.
Really? Let's read our article, our letter, Annie's Mailbox. Are you a Phubber? You're a Phubber. You just phubbed me.
Dear Annie, I am not a Phubber. I want to be my own master instead of a slave to a cell phone. When I need it, I can borrow it from my mother. I can enjoy the benefits of using it, but not depend on it. I want to have freedom of time management. I don't want to follow the trend now, although many people do it. Some people look at their phones when they cross the road. That's dangerous. So I say no to being a Phubber. Sincerely, Minnie.
Okay, so let's see what Minnie, that's the girl who wrote this month's letter, has to say about people she calls Phubbers. That is, of course, people who are rude to others because they spend all their time and attention looking at their phone instead of paying attention to the people around them.
Exactly. 好，那什么是 Phubber 呢？我们先来看 P-H-U-B Phub 这个动词就是由 phone 电话还有 snub 冷落结合而来的这个新词汇，那就表示说只顾着玩手机不管别人。那么 Phubber 就可以表达低头族咯。Well, Phubber is a new word that has become more and more popular in the past few years as more of us spend a lot of our time looking at and using our smartphones.
Yeah, so Minnie begins her letter by writing, Dear Annie, I am not a Phubber. Well, good. So she tries to be polite to people even if she is using her phone or is looking at something interesting on her smartphone. Well, that's just polite.
Right, it is polite, but there is another reason that Minnie pays attention to how she uses her phone. Next, she writes, I want to be my own host instead of a slave to a cell phone. Wow. I think I know what she is trying to say here, but isn't there a bit of a problem with how she wrote that sentence?
There sure is. So Minnie wrote about being a host instead of a slave, and this isn't quite correct. A host is someone who holds a party. If I invite my friends to a party, then I am the host of the party. The correct word that she should be using here is the word master. If you are the master of your cell phone, then you tell it what to do. You have all the power.
Minnie 说她不是个低头族，那她在信件第二句写到说 I want to be my own host instead of a slave to a cell phone. 我想做自己的主人，而非手机的奴隶。那么 slave 就是指奴隶。那这个句子它用的 host用错咯，虽然 host 它有主人的意思，可是它是指东道主的那种主人，就是跟宾客相对的主人。好，那么 host 它也可以指这种活动的主办者啊、节目的主持人等等。像我们可以说 Alicia will be the host of the music awards. Alicia 将会担任这个音乐颁奖典礼的主持人。好，那如果是要表达说我想当自己的主人，这时候是指我们对事物啊、对情况拥有掌控权，是他们的主人或是主宰这件事。 失误。好，举例来说 The master of the house is not at home right now. 那间房子的主人现在不在家。所以呢 Minnie 应该把 host 改成 master 这样的主人才是正确的哦。So if we correct that sentence, it will read,
I want to be my own master instead of a slave to a cell phone. Yes, make sure that you control the phone and the phone doesn't control you.
Right, and then Minnie starts to write about how she tries to be the master of her own phone. She says, when I need it, I can borrow from my mother. Okay, so maybe she actually doesn't even have her own phone. She just uses her mother's. That's a great idea. It will definitely save her lots of money too.
That is a very good point. She won't have to worry about buying a new phone or losing her phone either. So that will give her more time to worry about her grammar. Yes, folks, there is a bit of a mistake in that sentence. So let's take a closer look. Now here, Minnie wrote that when she needs it, the cell phone, she can borrow from her mother. Now, this is almost correct, but not quite. When we borrow something, we need to say we borrow what from who. In other words, borrow something from somebody.
Minnie 下一句写到说 When I need it, I can borrow from my mother. 当我需要手机时，我可以向我的妈妈借。那么向某人借某个东西呢，固定用法是 borrow something from somebody. 例如 He borrowed some comic books from his friend. 他向朋友借了一些漫画书。那回来看 Minnie 的句子，它前半句是用代名词 it 来指 cell phone 手机，所以我们就可以用 it 来指手机，那就可以写作 borrow it from my mother. 向妈妈借手机。So now that we have corrected the sentence, let's hear how it should be.
When I need it, I can borrow it from my mother. That's right. And that way, she only spends time using a smartphone when she has something important that she needs to do with one. As she writes, I can enjoy the benefits of using it, but not depend on it. Exactly.
And this helps her a lot when she is busy. She isn't just wasting her time looking at a smartphone, as she explains next in her letter. I want to have freedoms of time management. Ah, yes, the freedom of time management is good. But I'm sorry to say the grammar in this sentence isn't so good.
Right. You can't have the freedom of bad grammar, I'm afraid, Minnie. So what's the problem? Well, it's good to have freedom of time management, but it's not okay to have freedoms of time management. And the difference is that letter S. We can talk about rights and freedoms, but that is like talking about certain laws, certain special rules that give you special rights and freedoms. But here in the letter, Minnie isn't talking about a law. She is just talking about her freedom, her power to do what she wants with her life and with her time. There is no special law working here, so she needs to take the S off the word freedom.
Minnie 写到说 I want to have freedoms of time management. 我想要有管理时间的自由。那么 management 就是表达管理，是个名词。而 freedom 这个字呢，它如果是用来指政治上的自由权利时，它是可数名词。那么用来指这种自由自主的时候是不可数名词。像是 Some people think that giving children too much freedom will spoil them. 有些人认为啊，给孩子太多自由会把他们给宠坏。好，那由于 Minnie 在这边他说的自由就是人的思想啊、行动、意志不受到限制的那种自由自主，所以这里的 freedom 不能加 s. So the correct sentence should read,
I want to have freedom of time management. Well, good for you. That will give you lots more time to do the things that you really want to do, rather than just wasting a few hours every day looking at stuff on your phone. And since many of us do spend too much time just looking at our phones every day, this actually makes Minnie quite a unique person.
Right, it sure does. As we reach our break, Minnie writes, I don't want to follow the trend now, although many people do it. Well, good for you, Minnie.Minnie 说她不想要跟随这个时下流行，即使很多人都这么做，她也不会想要盲从。那么 trend 就表示流行趋势。好，那我们要先休息一下咯。Okay, so let's take a break and then we'll be back with more from Minnie's
letter.Okay, so Minnie has been writing about why she thinks that being a Phubber, or a person who spends way too much time on their phone, isn't something that she wants to be.
She wants to be the master of her own phone instead of its slave. And if she really needs to use a smartphone, she can always borrow her mother's.
Yeah, and not being so focused on her phone also gives her more time to do the things she really wants to do. But now, as we come to the end of her letter, Minnie also explains why it might be dangerous for people to be Phubbers.
And this is also a really good point. Minnie writes, some people are looking at their phones when they cross the road. Yes, I've definitely seen that before. And I've read news stories of people getting hurt when they don't pay attention and get hit by cars. You can't always be looking at your phone.
No, you sure can't. I agree with you there, but I don't totally agree with the grammar that Minnie used when she was writing about this. What was the problem? Well, you could say that some people are looking at their phones when they cross the road, but we usually only use the present continuous tense like this when we're talking about something that is happening right now. In the letter, though, the writer is talking about something that happens a lot of the time and at many different times. So you don't really need a special tense. Just say that people look at their phones. They do this at many different times because it happens a lot.
Minnie 接着写到低头族一个很危险的行为 Some people are looking at their phones when they cross the road 有些人会在过马路时看手机好，那前半句它的时态用现在进行式 are looking 这并不恰当哦现在进行式是在表达现在正在进行的动作那这个语义就会变成有些人正在看他们手机那么 Minnie 只是要表达说有些人会在过马路时看手机这是一般所认知的事实我们就是会用这种现在简单式来表达说现在的事实啊状态或是习惯像我们可以说 Kyle is watching TV now Kyle 现在正在看电视我们就是用进行式来表达 Kyle watches TV every evening Kyle 每天晚上都会看电视这是个习惯嘛我们就用现在简单式来表达因此呢 Minnie 应该把 are looking 改成 look 才正确哦 So if we fix that sentence we get this
Some people look at their phones when they cross the road. Yes, they do. And why shouldn't they do that? Well, I think we all know by now, but Minnie tells us very simply when she writes, That's dangerous. It sure is.
And this brings us to the end of Minnie's letter. She has made her case and given us several good reasons why. For her, the type of person you would call a Phubber is not someone she is interested in becoming. Or as she says, so I say no to be a Phubber. Well, good for you, Minnie. That's a wise decision.
A wise decision, but unwise grammar. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad she doesn't want to be a Phubber, but I'm not glad about the way she wrote it. If you say no to someone, it can be either a noun, like which is easy. Like she could say, she said no to a cup of coffee, or maybe a person. I said no to John. But if it's a verb, then you need to make it the verb ing form. Luke said no to selling his bicycle, or they said no to joining the team.
过马路看手机真的很危险 Minnie 最后写到说 So I say no to be a Phubber 所以我拒绝当个低头族那这边要介绍一个句型是 Somebody says no to 加上名词或动名词这是固定的用法用来表达说某个人拒绝什么什么举例来说 He never says no to chocolate. 他很爱巧克力，从不拒绝巧克力。只要你拿给他吃，他绝对不会说不的。好，那我们回头来看 Minnie 的句子 ，be 动词这个 be 要改成 being 才正确哦。So the real final sentence of Minnie's letter will read.
So I say no to being a Phubber. Me too.
And so do I.
All right, everyone. We'll see you very soon, but for
Bye-bye.
now, that is it. Thanks for joining us, and until Hanny.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dear Annie, I am not a Phubber. I want to be my own master instead of a slave to a cell phone. When I need it, I can borrow it from my mother. I can enjoy the benefits of using it, but not depend on it. I want to have freedom of time management. I don't want to follow the trend now, although many people do it. Some people look at their phones when they cross the road. That's dangerous. So I say no to being a Phubber. Sincerely, Minnie.
Hey everyone, I'm Kim.
And I'm Daisy.
And we're going to be playing a game called Word Drop, where we each have 3 words from today's lesson that we haven't seen before, and we need to casually work them into our conversation. So let's go.
Okay, I'll get started. You know, sometimes when you're riding the bus or at a restaurant, you just notice when you look around everywhere, there's a lot of Phubbers here. Which means, they just can't stop looking at their phone, playing their Candy Crush, checking their email, Lots of Phubbers.
There's lots of phubbing going on, I understand. Well, I like the freedom of being able to be on the bus and go around. The city has a lot of great transportation options, like the bus, the metro, U-bike, you can walk, and it gives you a lot of freedom in how you want to move around the city.
Yeah, speaking of freedom, there's lots of ways, you can feel free. Like, for instance, self-expression. And fashion is one way to do it. And I think there's a lot of freedom also in maybe not following the trend.
I would agree with that. I think if you go out on your own and do your own thing, and you can experience that freedom of self-expression.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so when I got my first job, I was working in a retail store that was selling clothes, actually, and I didn't follow the trends, and I was kind of boring. But the most important part of this story is that I was the management for this store. I was the assistant manager, so that was interesting. I got to see a lot of fashion trends.
Yeah, that's cool, but trends and fashion, all these things, if you don't have your own voice that you're trying to share, you can just become a slave to the system that's just trying to sell you more things every season, and it's not really representative of who you are.
That's absolutely right. So I guess the most important takeaway from this is to be the master of your own fate.
Yeah, you do you.
See you next time.